Hello there, welcome to Heart Explained Therapy, and I suppose I wanted to do this video for a while now, but I needed to introspect and take some time to really understand the psychology of a football fan in particular. And I suppose you could venture out to different sports, but I really wanted to get into the psychology that's going on for a football fan to be what they are. And being English and being a football fan myself, not as passionately sort of crazy about it now. I don't get the same feelings towards football that I used to get probably unconsciously 5 years ago. But certainly at one point I was like the football fan who gets very depressed if their team loses, or can get very violent if something doesn't go their way. And I thought I wanted to really introspect this because I can't find any information that talks about why the football fans do what they do. And let's look at it quite abstractly. And if you're a football fan, I don't mean to offend you, it's okay that you do what you do, but it's a very unconscious, needless action, because you're viewing a sport and giving attention to idols, and what's scary is that there's emotions attached. You can get miserable if somebody doesn't kick a ball into a net. That's the basic logic and rationale of what that is. Now, because you've been conditioned all your life to believe that's a normal response, of course you're going to have that. I'm trying to break away now, and I think this breakaway can actually help with certain modern day problems that recently the FA have had to write to Twitter and social media platforms like Facebook to say they must stop this racial abuse to footballers. Now, what we have to understand is different dynamics, and we have to, it's actually been a great introspection that I've had for a long time, because it went far deeper than I imagined, and also there's lots of complex sort of subcategories to it. And one of the most important ones is when I introspected the ideas of football and compared it to other sports, and compared to racial abuse, compared to violence at games, trouble, and sometimes there's been deaths in the past where a fan has been stabbed or killed, under an assault. Football came out far worse than any other sport. And for me, there's a couple of reasons why, I suppose. But let's compare one simple, easily comparable sport. A football fan compared to a rugby fan. Now, rugby has so many similar comparisons, as in it's a game for men primarily. Going into the 21st century, probably not, but it's got a ball, it's got posts, it's got stadiums, it's got referees, it's got all of the things completely similar, apart from a few differences, and that is the amount of people that follow it are different. Football have completely higher statistics of fan-based popularity because of it's the sport of the nation, I suppose you could call it, and that's definitely 100% true. That's nothing compares to football in certainly in the UK, and the difference also is the working class. Working class follow football. Rugby actually has a higher level of class, just like cricket does. And this is based on the university sports and the educational system that makes this a sort of higher class of people that tend to play this. Now, this is very important, and it will come to clarity later why this is important, but don't forget that the working class man has a higher statistical chance of supporting football rather than football. That different class And I don't mean to say that uneducated people are more likely to be violent and aggressive. And I mean, beer is served in rugby games, but they don't fight afterwards. In fact, they have mixed fans in rugby games, which can never happen in UK football. It would be impossible to set that up and actually think it would be safe. And also, the players on the pitch seem to be very respectful for the referee. Another strange dynamic. Again, over years and years, it's been sort of moulded to be like this. Now, the reason why I bring up the lack of education or the working class sort of individual, I'm not saying that an undereducated person has any more chance of being violent, but I do believe they have more reasons to be in pain and annoyed to actually want to get rid of a lot of anger in their personal lives, which I believe that we'll come to later is what fighting football fans is really about on a deeper level. So, undereducated people have less opportunities in life in general, and that means they have more anger, obviously, than people who have better opportunities, who have gone to university, had a better education, been around, surrounded by people who we would class as better morals, which not always the case. It's actually, it's not as simple as that, but they've just been in sort of areas where they wasn't likely to come into confrontation where they need to get all this anger out. I'm not saying they don't suffer with anger. What I'm saying is they have a lot of luxuries that poor people don't have, and this rage is is internal, that needs to come out. But I want to go through the next level of consciousness now. The first level of consciousness, which a psychiatrist will tell you. What's going on is primal in the football fan. Years ago, fathers and sons would be leaders of tribes, and they would pass it down to their son and pass it down to their son. And this has happened now with a sporting event like football. It's happened with other stuff as well. Typical morals and values. How many times have you seen a boxer have a father that was a boxer and a grandfather was a boxer? And this is how the humans and families kind of try and pass down. I mean, there's a lot of even boxers who have the same name and they call them Floyd Mayweather Jr. and so on, to pass this legacy down. So this is primal and tribal. It's important to understand this at the first level of the higher consciousness if you're a football fan, or wanting to understand why football fans most of the time look like racist, really undereducated people, which is, again, is stereotyping them. I'm not saying that the 50,000 fans in a stadium aren't educated. They can go there and just want to watch a good game. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just observing pure reality on the subject. So don't get offended if you're a football fan. I listen to the football as well. I can get involved. I can feel the emotion. Certainly when England play, you become this patriotic. The tribal thing really does come out then, and you just really want success, and you have your icons, idols on the pitch, and you want them to do well, and when they don't do well, you feel crap. And I really want to get to the point, because it's the feeling crap bit is that you don't really need, because what you've just watched is just something that we'll be back on in next week, Wednesday, another game that will be played. There's no need to add violence or racial hatred to somebody who missed an opportunity. There was a Colombian goalkeeper, I think, who gave a penalty away years ago and got killed by a fan. And I'm talking about this sort of dark stuff and the pain that you've caused, and how you don't need to be that attached to a game. So we've got to understand this first level of consciousness, tribal, primal. You join your group of friends And that group of friends, you might as well put war paint on you, because what you actually do, you all wear the top, don't you? You wear the claret and blue, or the blue and white, or the black and white stripes. That's your uniform. That's your uniform to go to war. Again, very primal condition. But what I want to talk about is the next level of introspection that I viewed on how can we obviously be in the 21st century. We know that going to a football match isn't, we know we're not a tribe going to war, but why are we venting so much anger in a defeat or even a decision? I stopped going to football 10 years ago because I saw mums, dads with little kids swearing their head off at referees and managers and football players. And I just thought that was terrible conditioning for the child to put through. Why would you want to take them into an ugly environment like that? So I've never been back, and I never will go to a stadium to watch a game of football ever again, because not everybody, but a certain amount of toxic people will just happily be a mother and father and happily swear in front of their child like that's just normal, and that child then gets brought up to have this sense of wanting to watch what daddy and mummy used to take them to, and they used to have a good time, and they used to have a pie and a bottle of Coca-Cola, and it was such a fun environment. And really what it was just pure venting of anger. So let's look at the source of anger. What could this be? Well, if you look at the football pitch, what are you looking at on the players? You're looking at almost idols that are very far above you. They're most likely, unless you support a local club that doesn't really get paid that much money, most of these sort of lower league clubs as well are on very good money, £1,000 a week, and this is money that you won't be particularly earning unless you're in the box as one of the shareholders or just happen to be a wealthy sort of person. You'll be having the the warm heated seats with the minibar and the buffet. The average fan in the stadium is standing in the cold on a basic wage and spent most of it on their season ticket for the match, because it's a place and an avenue where they can just get a little bit of release in their Monday to Friday factory job or Monday to Friday delivery driver's job. Now, I'm not criticising any of that procedure, it's just purely observational. I'm trying to find the root of the anger. So you're looking at all these people on the pitch that all earn really good money, and you obviously have the 11 or the 20 of the squad that you really love, and you would do anything to sort of protect, like they're your babies or they're your gods. And then you have the other 20 that you have to hate and swear and spit at and make out that you don't like them, even though in 6 months' time when you sign them you will actually adopt them as one of your own, like it's nothing happened. But it's okay to be racial to this opposing player that's just committed a foul on one of your players, even though you're being racist to an individual on the opposite team when you have 7 black players in your team. So it's like it's not right, it's just undereducated, unconscious, primal animals acting out, venting out. So I wanted to know, why would we even be racially abusive or just abusive in general when these decisions don't go our way, or when the results don't go our way, or when somebody, our hero, doesn't perform? And I introspected this and I come to the conclusion that might not necessarily be 100% on the money, but I think it's pretty close. I find that in life, if anybody irritates me or annoys me, unfortunately it's a reflection of something that I don't like, either within myself or something they have which I would love to sort of have, like even a trait or a job or a sort of type of respect that I give them, and they're arrogant with it, and I want that but without the arrogance, and it's always seems to be a reflection of something in me that needs a bit of work. So when you collectively put this as a group, when someone's outside or ripping seats down or running on the pitch. What's going on there? And what you'll see is that you have put all your faith into a god, the football team. Now this hasn't come back with the dream of what you expected. Again, the egotistical consciousness dreamt that you was going to win the cup, dreamt you was going to win this match, dreamt that this was really important, because it is the most important thing at Saturday, 3 o'clock. This is the only thing that you've been talking about all week. So it is really important. And then your dreams get shattered. And then out comes the anger, the ugliness. All your gods are fraudulent. They haven't met your expectations, which were illusionary really, wasn't they? There's no way that Alan Shearer could score 6 goals in an FA Cup final, however you dreamt it was going to be. And then, as we see, people who have got promotion with managers and won trophies with managers, at the end, they're standing outside the stadiums asking for that manager to go because they've lost 5 games. Venting the anger, because this is the only avenue you have to vent on. And the unconscious brain, the monkey brain at the lowest level, will always act racially. They will always act abusively. They will always act violently, because they don't know any other way to deal with emotions and sort of get these emotions out in a manner that is fitting of a human mind, of a conscious being that's got an ounce of intelligence. Now, what I'm saying is, if you detach this emotion that you have to the game, you detach how much of the importance it is and start to sort of step back and say, I don't have to slag off my rivals for months and months and months. I don't have to say anything racially abusive, even though that player has played awfully. He has played good in the past, he will play good in the future, and me actually believing that I can get away with a racial slur in 2021 is ridiculous. And look upon that, introspect yourself and say, right, why do I do this? Why do I watch a game for 5 hours a day, loads of different football matches, then go on a computer and play FIFA, a football match, for another 5 hours, when I'm not working out or going to the gym or playing football myself? I'm not doing anything to actually become a footballer. And what we're talking about is you, once upon a time, had a dream to be one of these gods. And not necessarily a footballer, although most men probably have dreamt about being a footballer. But I'm talking about all your old idols. You've once thought that you had a talent enough to sing, to dance, to be an entertainer, to sell your personality. This dream hasn't come true now, so you have to be the one who asks for a signature rather than give out your signature. So you've lowered your significance in life to a whole bunch of external people. Now you just think about that for a minute. Think about the common sense of that. Isn't that going to cause you to have a lot of anger? Because everybody else is more significant than you. And you have all external gods, and you have all external idols, and you're not placed anywhere near them. They can walk past you and you can't see them. And now we're going into a dark place now, because this isn't just a fan that will throw a chair or something through a pub window where they know the fans are at. We're talking about serial racial abusers online, sort of trolling people. We're talking about someone who loves somebody so much, like Jill Dando, their #1 fan, but because they felt pain from a rejection of a letter, or the fact that they don't even know that they exist and it causes them pain, it's enough to kill the person they become delusionally infatuated with. Remember, the love isn't real. You admire everything about them, but what you're really saying is you are not that. So when you love and evil and good and sort of pain, there's not much difference between those two variables. How many people have you loved in your life that you would arguably say you actually hate now? And if you haven't hated, you have loved them, and you only don't hate them anymore now because you've healed and you've learned to forgive them. But there was a point where love can turn to hate almost instantly, because it's the emotions that trigger. So introspecting just the psychology of a football fan has suddenly gone really dark into the whole meaning of life. If you don't understand your emotions, you're going to vent them out in these horrible ways that we see, and you're going to be the unconscious football fan. Now, of course, the football fan can't get the education all the time. They have to work in this job now. They have a mortgage, 3 children, they're struggling to pay the bills. They're not going to really go out there and manage to pick themselves up unless they even want to learn sort of knowledge to do that in the first place. Because most people, this is why we watch football, this is why the government and the real conspiracy theory is they don't want unconscious morons ever waking up, because we wouldn't do those shitty jobs anymore. We wouldn't actually pay loads of money for the tabloids and for these stars, because we'd give ourselves significance for the first time and actually enjoy probably playing football with our kids in the garden for 5 hours, rather than playing on a computer game and dreaming that that player that you've made over 5 seasons, who has got like the 100% speed, the 100% skill, the 100% right foot, that's 95% left foot, and you've got to work until you've got that to 100%. We'd probably put it into relationships, feelings, and then now we can understand feelings. It means, wow, we can actually be content with all of our feelings for the first time in our life and understand anger and rage. So this is where I've gone to it with introspection. I know it's very deep and it's a massive jump from what an average psychiatrist would introspect football fans to be. But when you understand the pain and anger that's coming out, this is just an observation. It could be, 80%, 90% true. It might not even be true at all. It's just, I think it's a good shout to understand people on why they get so mad. And again, we've had the likes of, I think Versace got shot by one of his fans. There was someone who killed a president who loved the president. Lots of people who kill famous people are actually nobody. And they look at a person and think, right, how can I get that fame? And rather than building up their talent and achieving something, even something very similar, they go out and kill that person because it brings them an instant fame. And it's quite horrendous, pathological. And I also think that you being upset for a week because your football team lost is very pathological. I think that's quite a serious problem, to be honest. That's just seen as the norm and will always be the norm, and you'll pass that norm down to your kids. Now think about how many times you've been up and down with your football team. Yes, you've had some great highs, you've had some really bad lows. Do you want that in all of your life, for the rest of your life, with every subcategory? And do you want to pass that down to your child to have that? I don't believe you can really say that you want that. And it doesn't mean that you never feel the highs again. It means that you probably feel more highs now, because you really understand that you don't have to get emotionally attached to external sort of things like a football not going into the back of a net.